doing something a little different on my channel. I don't know if you guys have seen the boy drama like videos in the ASMR community. I think ASMR Mel's started it, and then it just became a trend to like do story times about boy drama or talk about boy drama you have in your life. So I have my own story of boy drama, but I was like in college, so I am 27 now. I'll be 28 in like 2 months, and this happened when I was 18, 19, so it's been a while. And just like as a disclaimer, I know that I was not a good person during this. I was not a good partner. I was still learning how to be a good partner because I never really had like examples in my life of like what a healthy relationship looks like, or like how you're supposed to treat your partner. I have apologized for the things that I've done. Not everyone accepted them, but it happens. I do want to say that karma is real, and you'll see what I mean throughout the story. But like I said, this video is not going to be like my other videos where I'm, you know, talking about specific things. This is more of like a story time, like gossipy kind of video. So if you're not into that kind of thing, I completely understand. But yeah, without further ado, let's get started in this story. So let's like set the scene. I went about 2 hours away from my hometown to an all-girls college, and I, like, within the first couple months that I was there, I was just curious of like what the dating scene looked like, because I was single. So I was like, oh, might as well figure it out. And also I don't know, I guess I would say I'm like pansexual, but at the time I was like identifying as lesbian. So I was even more excited that I'm going to an all-girls school. There has to be other like LGBTQ plus women at the school. So I was excited about that, and like excited to find like a community. But anyway, about like 2 months in to me going to school there, I was like, why don't I get on Tinder and like just see what's out there, like what's, you know, other people around here who are queer, like who I might be interested in, you know. So I found this girl, and I'm gonna call her Amanda, and she actually lived on campus, and it was a really small campus. So she lived on campus, and she was like, I thought she was pretty, and we had the same taste in music and everything. So we started talking, and then we started dating, and I was like her first everything. Like, she had never been in a relationship before. She'd never had her first kiss, all of that. So I was her first everything. And at the time, I don't know, I didn't like make it special for her. And that's a big regret of mine, because I feel like when I had my first everything, the person didn't make it special for me. It didn't make me feel like loved and respected and everything. So I feel really bad that I didn't do that for her. And I guess I was just thinking like, oh, we're in college now, like we're grown, like we don't have to like do those things. But I feel bad that I didn't do those things. But anyway, so we're dating for like 5 months, I'd say, and I can tell that I'm not in love with her, but she told me that she was in love with me and everything, and so I was just like, anyway. So now I do have to tell you that before I dated Amanda, I'd been single for a little bit, but when I was like graduating from high school, I had broken up with she broke up with me. We had broken up like right around my high school graduation. Her name was Michaela, and our relationship, I was definitely in love with her, but it was very toxic on both ends. And so fast was really good friends with my best friend. So my best friend was like out of state in college, and so I hadn't really gotten to see her very often, but we would FaceTime all the time. And one day she called me and said, like, are you cool with like being around Michaela, because like when I come home from college I want us all to be like hanging out and stuff. And I was like, yeah, like I think I'm over the whole situation now, like I've calmed down more, and like, you know, we can be cool now. So me, my best friend Michaela, and another girl that went to college with my best friend started doing like group FaceTimes. I can't remember what the app was called. It wasn't like Uvu or anything like that, but it was like, I don't know, some app, and I had it on my iPad, and so we'd all FaceTime. And I was just cordial with her, like, you know, we'd say like, hi, how are you, or whatever, and then we would just talk to everybody else in the thing. And then one day I was bored, and I messaged the group chat and said, is anyone like around and wants to do FaceTime? And she was like, I'm around, let's FaceTime. And I was like, oh. And like I knew it was a bad idea because I was with Amanda, but I did it anyway. And the chat like between us was getting kind of flirty. It was just me and her, and it was kind of flirty. And her friend was there, and he kept saying like, you're talking to your ex, that's crazy, like what are you guys gonna get back together? And she just kept laughing, and I was like, oh. And so after we got off of the when we were on the FaceTime, she was like, will you please unblock me on everything? And I was like, yeah, like we're cool now, you know, like I'm letting go of everything that happened before we can like start over. And so I unblocked her. And then later that night after the FaceTime, she had texted my best friend a picture of me requesting to follow her on Instagram and said, Operation Get Her Back. And I was like, Michaela still has feelings for me. And my best friend was like, are you stupid? Of course she still has feelings for you. And I was like, this changes everything. So I knew that me and Michaela might not get back together, but I also knew that I couldn't look Amanda in the eyes anymore, and like, because I still had feelings for Michaela, so I didn't want to be like, you know, holding that in and like not telling her about it and like just pretending like everything's okay. And so Amanda had worked at like a daycare thing, so she would like be there before the kids went to school. So then the kids would go to school, and then she'd come back to my dorm and like take a nap or like, you know, hang out for a little bit before she had her classes. And she came back to her dorm and like tried to snuggle up, came back to my dorm and like tried to snuggle up next to me, and I was like really stiff, and she was like, what's the matter? And I was like, we could talk about it later. And she was like, what, are you breaking up with me? And I was like, and she was like, are you serious? Like, we need to talk about this right now. But my roommate was still there. So she ended up asking one of her friends if we could sit in her dorm and talk, because we didn't have anywhere that was like private for us to talk. And basically I told her that like I just felt like I was not in the right like headspace for our relationship, and that I just like wanted us to be friends, because I just felt like the relationship wasn't like living up to my expectations, is basically what I told her. And she was like, I don't believe you. There's someone else, isn't there? And I was like, fine. I still have feelings for Michaela. And I just remember that she was just sobbing, and then she didn't say anything, and she was just like, okay. And I felt really bad. I cried, obviously, because I was like, I felt really bad about the situation, and like me and her were, like, even though I wasn't really in love with her, I still, like, thought that she was a good person, and she was cool, and, like, we got along really well, and, like, I think we would have been great friends, and we probably shouldn't have dated, you know, but in that moment I felt extremely bad for what I was doing, and rightfully so. But yeah, we broke up. So now I'm going to talk about someone named Dan who went to our college. And you're probably saying, you had a man at your all-girl college. Trans men are allowed to go to all women's colleges. When I was like leaving that college, I was only there for a year. So when I was like leaving, they were talking about allowing trans women. Obviously, you should let trans women go to an all-women's college because they're women too. But anyway, so Dan was trans, and that's why he was allowed to be at our all-women's college. But anyway, so before me and Amanda had broken up, I had seen Dan around. And one day, me and my friend from college, we were in the study lounge, like on the computer, and he came through and like said hi to her, and she was like, hey, this is my friend, me. And he was like, oh, aren't you Amanda's girlfriend? And I was like, yeah. And he was like, oh, like I know her, and like we're cool and everything, and I had a semester off. And I was like, oh, I remember you because Amanda had shown me Dan's like Snapchats or something like that. I don't remember. But so he's like, you guys want anything from Starbucks? Because we had a little Starbucks on campus. And my friend was like, yeah, can you get me like a cookie or something? And he was like, you want anything? And I was like, no, that's okay. And he came back with a cookie for my friend, and he gave me peanut M&Ms, and I love peanut M&Ms. So I was like, how did you know I like peanut M&Ms? And he was like, just a guess. And I was like, oh, he's kind of cute. But he had a girlfriend, and she was studying abroad for the semester, so she wasn't like around. And I had been with Amanda, so I was like, oh, I'm like not getting myself into that, but we can be cool. And that was nice of him to get me the peanut M&Ms. So after me and Amanda broke up and everything, now I'm single and I'm just like chilling. And Michaela, like I tell Michaela, I think we FaceTimed, and I told Michaela like, I am still into you. I didn't know you were still into me, and I wish that you had like said something before. And Michaela was like, well, you know, here we are now, but since you're so far away for college, like I think we should wait until you come home, and then like we could see if things will work. I didn't want that. I wanted it now. Like I was like, Michaela, you need to come to my school. And Michaela was like, I can't. So I was like being impatient about it, and I was just like, like I felt like Michaela, like low-key felt like Michaela was just jealous because I was in a relationship with Amanda, and she just wanted like me to not be in a relationship. And so once I was out of it, she was just like, oh, like cool, I'll get to you when I can. And I was like, ugh, like I felt like I was pushed to the side. Anyway, because I'm now single, my friend invites me to go to like a foam party thing and just like let loose, you know, relax or whatever. I also was having a really tough semester because my aunt passed away at the beginning of the semester, so I was like really homesick, and I just like felt like I was like losing myself and like who I am. But I was only 18 and 19, so I really like didn't know what I was doing. But we go she was like, who cares, like, you guys can dance, it doesn't mean anything. And I was like, I guess that's true. So she goes over to him and says, hey, like, my friend wants to dance with you. And he's like, okay. So he comes over, we're dancing, talking and everything, and he's like, can I get your Snapchat? We were 19. Before you guys are like a grown man asking for a Snapchat. We were 19, so that was completely acceptable. So he adds me on the Snapchat. I think the party was on like a Thursday, and then on Friday my mom came up to get me to bring me back home. So that whole weekend that I was home, I'm Snapchatting Dan, and he's like, you are so beautiful, like, I feel like I felt something with you that I don't feel with my girlfriend. And I was like, I was like cautious, but I also felt like happy that he said that, you know. So we continued talking for like the whole weekend. He would like FaceTime me and everything, and he finally, it was like Sunday, he says to me, when you come back to campus, would you like to come to my apartment? And I was like, sure, but like, isn't that like gross, like grimy to be doing to your girlfriend? And he was like, well, I'm breaking up with her today because she's supposed to be calling me. And I was like, this is not a good idea, like, I don't want to be the person to do something like that. And he was like, no, like, I asked her not to study abroad and she did, so now I feel like there's like no connection between us anymore. And which, look, like, in hindsight, looking back on it, I'm like, why would she give up her opportunity to study abroad because you didn't want her to? They had been dating for like 2 years, and just because you didn't want her to, she would give up the opportunity to go study abroad. But anyway, he broke up with her, and I came back to campus on Monday, and he got me and brought me to his apartment, and we are just like hanging out and everything. I think we did whitening strips on our teeth, and I ended up sleeping over, but nothing happened. We ended up just like sleeping over. I think we kissed a couple times and everything was fine. The next day we go back to campus for classes, and then he asked me, do you want to come back to my apartment again? So I did, and we hooked up. And so I had to, like, I think I ended up FaceTiming Michaela, and I was like, hey, like, I feel like I just want to let go of the situation between us, and I want to, like, actually pursue things with Dan and actually give him a chance and see where it goes. And Michaela was extremely, like, respectful about it. She was like, okay, like, whatever you want to do, like, I'm happy for you. So that's what she said. And me and Dan start dating, and we start like posting each other on Snap more often. Like, we're being seen around campus with each other. Everyone starts to realize that we're dating because it was a really small school. Everyone starts seeing that me and Dan are dating. And Amanda still has Dan on Snapchat. So Amanda posts something saying like, oh, like, you think that you've won something, but all I did in that relationship was waste my time and money. So I was like, is she for real? But I didn't say anything. I just was like, and then I think I like subtweeted her, and I was like, the fact that people act like this is really like stupid and immature. And then we ended up getting into it on Twitter because she was like, why do you need to sub me when you could just put the app buttons right there? And so yeah, we went back and forth, and she was like threatening to fight me. She said something like, I'll curb stomp you. And if you didn't guess from like my other videos, I'm not a confrontational person. I'm not someone who fights people. I fought my sister, like, because that's what sisters do. But like, I don't fight people. I'm not that kind of person at all. So while she's threatening to fight me, I'm just like, whatever. I end up like not engaging with that any further. And we went to the dining hall, me and Dan, to have lunch. And I saw one of Amanda's friends, and she's like, what was all that you said online, like trying to come at me, like, and I was just like, I literally stood there. I was trying to make my salad. I literally stood there and looked at her like, because like, I don't know what to say. Like, first of all, if my issue is with Amanda, I'm not gonna fight you. Like, I don't care about you, you know. But it's just like, it was like a little chihuahua. Like, she was like, why did you say online? And I was just like, anyway. So she's threatening to fight me. Apparently, right after I left the dining hall, like, I got my salad, ate it, and then we went back to my dorm. And after I left the dining hall, Amanda came and was like yelling, like popping off, and like Dan's friend was still there, like doing her homework on the table. And Amanda like walked up to her and was like, where are they? And she was like, you can mind your own business, like, get over it, girl. Like, they started dating, like, what do you want them to do? I was just like, I don't feel like doing this. Like, my aunt died. Like, I really, like, I felt like I just didn't care about stuff anymore. Dan calls campus security, like, without even really talking to me about it. He's like, I'm gonna call campus security because this is gonna obviously be an issue, and I don't want you to get, like, kicked out because of it. So campus security gets involved. We all stop fighting because campus security is like, hello, this is like embarrassing for the school that you guys are students here and you're like threatening each other online and everything. Like, when you leave college, you'll see that like these things follow you. And I was just like, oh, I ended up like deleting my Twitter like months later because I was thinking about it. Like, yeah, that's really, like, if a future employer looked up my Twitter, they're gonna see all this. So I was like, oh, I'm just gonna delete my Twitter because like that's really embarrassing. Anyway, that just brings me and Dan like closer together, and so we're together like every day. Like, we are like basically inseparable. Everyone around campus knows that we're dating. Everyone knows that like if you invite one of us to something, the other person's coming too, you know. So anyway, the semester comes to an end and I go home, and before I leave, Dan tells me he loves me, he wants our relationship to continue even though I'm going home, and he gives me his mom's necklace. And his mom died when he was like 6, so that was like really important to him, and he gave it to me to like bring home with me and keep it with me. And I was like, oh, I promise that I'll come back, even though it's 2 hours away and I don't have a car. I promise that I'll come back to see you and all that. So I go home and I see Michaela, because that was the whole point of me and Michaela and my best friend and the other girl to be like FaceTiming. So I go home and see Michaela, and she's like asked me, can we like talk privately? So I actually end up getting in her car and we go to like a park by ourselves. And she was like, I want you to know that I still have feelings for you. And I was like, why didn't you say anything, like, when you knew that I was like getting with Dan? And she was like, I really don't want to be like getting in the way of your happiness, because if you're not into me anymore, I can't control that. And I felt like it had shown so much like growth with her, because our relationship was really toxic. But when she was talking to me like that, I was like, I can see that she's grown a lot since our relationship. But she said that like she was hoping that when I came home for the summer, we would be able to go on dates, and like we would be able to like see if things worked out between us. And I said to her, like, if you had said this before I started dating Dan, me and Dan wouldn't be together right now. Like, if you had just been honest about, like, how you feel, instead of, like, trying to spare my feelings, then I wouldn't have been with Dan. Like, I would have just been with you because that's what I really wanted. But you weren't giving me the attention that I was looking for. Needless to say, we had that conversation. I think that conversation was low-key like emotional cheating, and I acknowledge that now. But anyway, I went home, I texted Dan, told him that I still had feelings for Michaela, and I didn't think I could do this anymore. And Dan was just like, I gave you my mother's necklace, like I can't believe you're doing this to me. And I was like, I know, I'm really sorry, and like I will either send it back to you, or when I come up, like for school, I'll give it back to you. And Dan was just like, whatever, like didn't talk to me. So I didn't know this until after, but after me and Dan broke up, he went and slept with his friend, who was like I was cool with her, but like I didn't really like her kind of off the bat. So, and Dan had been like saying like that she was so pretty and that he had a little crush on her. That was like before me and Dan were like official that he said that. But anyway, they slept together. He said that he was really drunk and high and she wasn't, and so he thought that like she took advantage of him. So I was 19 and I was mad at her and not mad at him. I don't know what the whole story is. They're the only two people on this planet who could probably tell you what the whole story is, you know. But anyway, I was upset with that once I found out about it, but I like ended up just like getting over it. But anyway, Michaela said all that, like, oh, I want to be with you, like this was supposed to be our summer. And then she started having health problems, like really bad health problems, and she just seemed like she didn't really have, I don't want to say time for me. Like in hindsight, I should have been more sensitive to the fact that she was going through health problems, but it just seemed like she didn't want to talk to me anymore. And so I just like fell back and I was like, okay, this is it. And I also felt like her health problems that were more on the neurological side, I thought maybe she like didn't remember our relationship and like she didn't remember how she really felt for me, you know. And so I was just like accepting the fact that things were probably never gonna work between me and Michaela. So I just let that go. And I texted Dan and like it was still flirty. So Dan was like, why don't we just get back together? And I was like, okay, like say less. So me and Dan got back together for the last time. And I went up to visit him. I didn't have a car, so I had to take a bus. That was interesting, but I took a bus over to see him, and everything was going so well. I started envisioning a future with him, and like I started to feel like, oh my god, I actually have feelings for him. Like I'm not thinking of Michaela anymore, and like I actually like him. On the last day that I was there, because I was there like for a weekend, it was like Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and on Sunday he had to work. He was working at Subway, and I had to wait for my bus, so I went with him and I sat like on a table at Subway, and I didn't want to like deplete the battery on my phone, so I was like, can I use your phone and like play games and like whatnot? And he was like, yeah, sure. So I'm sitting there playing games. I have like an hour or two to kill until the bus gets there. So I'm sitting there playing games on his phone, and it says that his ex is typing on Snapchat. So I'm like, no fucking way, like there's no way she's about to say something. So I click on their conversation and scroll back a little bit. Found out that he had been texting her while me and him were together, and saying like, oh, if I wasn't with her, then I would be with you. I'm still in love with you, and I still have feelings for you. I can't like get over that easily. And I was just like, so this whole time he's had feelings for his ex and didn't say anything. I was really upset about it, but like, why? I had feelings for my ex the entire time. Anyway, now that I had started envisioning a future with him and started feeling like I had like actual feelings for him, I was really hurt that I found those text messages. And I just remembered that I ordered an Uber to go to the bus station, and I was like, I'm gonna go. And he was like, you still have like 2 hours till your bus comes. And I was like, I just saw your text between you and your ex. And he was like, it wasn't even like that, we weren't together. And I was like, but I can see that it was when we were together and you were saying X, Y, and Z to her. And he was just like, and so I hugged him, got in the Uber, and went to the bus station. And he was texting me like, so you're just done, you just want to break up? And I was like, yeah, I do just want to break up, after we had just spent like an amazing weekend with each other. But after that was it. I never was with Dan again. We're cool now. Like, I even went to hang out with him once as friends. Everything went smoothly. I think we just were meant to be friends altogether. But yeah, the outcome of the situation, I have never gotten the chance to apologize to Amanda for what I did. She had me blocked on everything. She still has me blocked on everything to this day. I think I haven't really checked, but I think I checked a few years ago and I was still blocked, so good luck to her. That's all I can say. I feel really bad about what I did, but I've come to like accept that, you know, I just didn't know better, and if I ever had the chance to apologize to her, I would. But me and Michaela, she's still really close with my best friend, so we're very cordial, and me and Dan are cool. Yeah, but I am engaged now, and I'm happy now. Like, things are so different from then, and yeah, I think that when I look back on this situation, Dan was my karma in a lot of ways. And so I think that, like I said at the beginning, like, karma is real, and I think that I needed to go through these situations to like understand more about myself and understand more about relationships. And I just think that like everything that went wrong, as sad as it made me, I think that it all led to where I am now, and I'm really grateful for that. But yeah, I hope you guys don't think I'm really messy. Well, I was messy, so if you think that I was being messy at that age, I understand. I think that a lot of people go through stuff like this and they just aren't like willing to talk about it because it's embarrassing. But yeah, like I said, I just feel like my whole life is different now. I'm engaged, I'm happy, I'm in a healthy relationship. We're going on 3 years now, and yeah, that's all I can really say. And I hope that anyone who I'm talking about that possibly was mentioned in this story, if you're watching this, I'm really sorry that I acted that way. Like, I'm not even trying to use my age as like an excuse. It's just like how I cope with it, you know. But like, I'm really sorry for what I did. Like, I should have known better, but I didn't. So yeah. But yeah, I think that's about it for my boy drama story time. If you guys like these kind of videos, definitely let me know in the comments below. If you haven't noticed from my channel, I've definitely been like trying different things, like sketchbook flip throughs. I tried doing a conspiracy theory video. I tried talking about reality TV, which seems like you guys do like that. But I've just been trying different things to see what you guys like.